Hello, all of you. I've been getting this video requested for a while, so I thought, why not? What would I do for Prototype 3? We're here. That's what we're all here for. So let's start. As you can probably all tell, I like the Prototype series, and it will always have a special place in my heart. Now, I'm assuming that all of you who are watching this video are all also fans of the series, or you wouldn't be here. And I want to keep this intro fairly short because I wanted to get into this video. Now, after the first two games, players were chomping at the bit, you could say, for a new game. But because Activision just wants to make Call of Duty, we're kind of here at this spot where we have this Alex Mercer-sized hole where Prototype used to be. And to answer the question, well, for starters, we have to think about who the protagonist is going to be. It could be Alex Mercer again because of reasons. There actually are reasons. I may or may not say, because there's a certain theory video that I'm going to be making after this, but just know that it could be Alex again for Prototype 3 if the theory holds any weight. But it's just a theory, so we're going to have to get into it a little bit. It could go back to being James Heller because he is canonically alive, but honestly, unless we're doing his same arc again where his daughter gets kidnapped or he's up for some type of revenge, I don't see him being the most interesting option unless he's an older James on the run, since there's no way they're just going to let him walk around. That could be kind of interesting. I may have to dig deeper into that one, but it's not the main basis of what I actually want from Prototype 3, because to be honest, I don't really want a game with Heller again unless he gets like the Kratos treatment, but even then I think I have a more interesting idea. Now, to answer the question, who would the main protagonist be? I think a lot of you already know if you've played both games, or at least have a vested interest in this particular series, and that is the son of Elizabeth Green, codename Pariah. The Prototype series has done a really good job of hyping this guy up. He was in the first game, and there's a lot of info on him, and he's just he was this looming presence that you kind of had to discover, and the way they did the lore for him was just so good. But in case anyone who doesn't know who this guy is, let me explain. Pariah is the son of Elizabeth Green. She was a character who was a big deal in the first game, and he was captured during the outbreak in Hope, Idaho in 1969. He is considered a completely different form of being from Elizabeth Green and Alex Mercer, and by extension James Heller, since Elizabeth is an imperfect release of non-coded regions of the genome, while Mercer is an artificial release. So Elizabeth was imperfect, and then Alex was artificial. And Blackwatch speculated that Pariah could be the final purpose of all life on Earth. So essentially, Pariah is the perfect being. He was the natural form of what was essentially named human evolution. And he was the perfect being that was created. He is the natural form of what Alex is, who is the artificial form. So Pariah was kind of born the way that Alex was made. And because of that, he was just, the military was terrified of him, and which let's be honest, makes sense. And apparently he and Alex had a lot in common, and so it was a huge point to not have them ever meet. And it's even been stated that Pariah is probably the only one that could stop Alex, but they never came into contact, so I mean, who knows? So we know a few things about him, namely that he can stop Alex, but he's also been held captive since he was born, and neither case of New York being infected was cause enough to release him. So obviously, if Alex didn't stop it, or if Heller didn't stop it, that the infection could have gotten worse, but it wasn't bad enough to release Pariah to stop Alex, which is interesting to me, because that means that Pariah is either on a higher level than Alex, or they just didn't think it was bad enough for Pariah to be released and stop him. Now that we've kind of explained who the protagonist is, now we can get into how I would actually do Prototype 3. And there's a couple of things I want to do. Namely, I want to focus more on the character this time around and explore the lore more. Not that there wasn't lore in Prototype. There's actually really cool lore with the Web of Truth and intrigue and all that. And I thought that was an awesome selling point of the series, but I would love to explore that more. I would love to go deeper into that world. There is something I kind of want to say to the fans of this series, and as a big fan myself, the likelihood of a third Prototype game being made in the style of the first two is very small. And if I'm going to be honest, if a third game is ever made, it will probably be more in the style of God of War 2018. And what I mean by that, it'll be more grounded and character focused. And I say this for a couple of reasons. Namely, games have changed a lot since those games came out, and there's a reason why we haven't gotten a Prototype 3 yet. Games are taking themselves a lot more seriously for the most part, and I think companies are more likely to go on board if the game is designed more along the lines of other hits. With that in mind, this experience is probably not what you were expecting, but for Prototype 3, I would want them to ditch the open world, and I would have them go the route of The Last of Us and God of War, giving us like these small, semi-open world explorable spaces as our hero travels across the country in search of something, or maybe just wandering to wander. But I would love to see a fleshed out Mercer versus Pariah. I think that would be very cool. And just imagine a completely infected United States or the world as Pariah travels across it, and we learn more about him and how he views the world as essentially being the perfect being. With this scenario, I can honestly see Alex being the villain again, and this is in the essence that he wanted Heller's DNA and he took him over from the inside, if that theory holds any weight. But while this is well and good, how are we going to justify the gameplay? Like, how are we going to justify playing as this ultra powerful being in this grounded experience? And the answer is simple. We justify it the same way Kratos does. We just have Pariah hold back the entire time, or he simply refuses to eat biomass and becomes stronger. So it's more of him simply hating himself. And because of this, a character-focused, semi-open world, cinematic, story-driven experience is really like the only way I could see this game being made, just in general, if I'm gonna be completely honest. But now the question is, how do we make him interesting? How are we gonna sell this idea? How are we gonna have him be this grizzled character going across this post-apocalyptic landscape? And the answer to that is making him an edgy anti-hero with a companion that's not annoying. We Last of Us and God of War it, to be completely honest. But story, it's nothing without story. So this is my pitch for the story. We have gameplay. It's going to be a grounded cinematic experience as he slowly grows stronger over the more people he kills, letting him have more abilities. Combat would be a refined version of kind of what we have in Prototype and Prototype 2. Just a more robust, less motion-based combat system. And I think that would work, but I got a little off topic. Let me get back into the story. Here is my pitch for the story. We see Pariah out in the wilderness, away from the infected, away from civilization. He kills when he needs to, but he's doing his best to live a normal life after his military took his from him. We see he has a cabin where he once had a wife and now has a daughter. His daughter being like him, so she is also fairly powerful. He knew about the infection, but he thought the military would take care of it. They always have before. Until one day, when he's out hunting, his wife gets killed by the infected. He gets flashes from the hive mind calling him, and we see Mercer in the flesh calling him home, asking him to join him. They can rule humanity together. Pariah refuses and makes it his personal mission to end him, not only for his wife, but for his daughter. Now they journey across America, going deeper and deeper until they finally get to Mercer. On the journey, we explore Pariah, his daughter, Mercer, and their impact on the world. I think with this story setup and gameplay loop, there would actually be an audience for it. But the thing is, I don't think we could get away with calling it Prototype 3. So I think we'd have to call it Pariah. I know that there's a lot of diehard fans that aren't going to be happy with the gameplay changes and the more serious story, but let's be honest, Prototype came out 12 years ago. And the reason why I don't want it to be the same or think it should be the same is because I'm older now. I want more depth and character in my entertainment. Not saying Prototype doesn't have interesting characters. Alex Mercer has the potential to be really interesting. But my point is, games have come a long way since the era of Prototype, and I think a game sitting in this vein would honestly do well for the franchise. And with that being said, not to end this video on a grim note, but I think that we almost need to stop thinking that if it comes out, it's going to be the same way that it always has been. Anyway, the Suicidal Mercer video is the next video I'm working on, so watch out for that soon. Subscribe and like if you want and all that jazz, and I will be talking to you guys soon. So thank you guys so much for watching this, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thank you.